people forget what evil really is. So we don't just have the great threat of Russia invading Ukraine now. We have the great threat of a malignant narcissist, Donald Trump. You defeat mass with precision, and that's exactly what Ukraine has been doing. The only way to defeat tyranny and defeat bullies is to stand up and fight them. Pessimists achieve nothing. Optimists achieve everything.
Hello and welcome to Der Heilige Stuhl, the podcast with Alex and Joern, and today with a very special and great guest. The great Robin Horsfall is with us to discuss geopolitics, Ukraine, and maybe what he likes to eat in the evening. I don't know, we'll see. So I want to extend my very warm welcome. Hello, Robin. Hello, Alex. How are you this? Well, for me, it's evening.
Hi, Joern. Good to be here.
Okay. Alex, are you good as well?
Yeah, I'm totally fine.
Totally fine. So,
I'm fine.
We go right in it with my first question for Robin, actually, and that is, I noticed you had or have quite the passion for karate. How did that ever happen? Like, why karate?
Okay, well, I got into the Special Air Service when I was 21 years old, just before my 22nd birthday. And all the work that I was doing in the first year was undercover in Northern Ireland with guns. All the training was with guns, pistols, and so on, which was the role. But there was no unarmed combat. And so I went down and joined a local karate club, which was run by a guy called Tom Beardsley. And he was a second Dan black belt at the time. And he had about 20 kids and about 3 adults in the class. And, you know, I took to it straight away. I just, it gave me something different and special that I'd always lacked, which was, although I could without doubt fight, it was done with aggression and viciousness. And this added a great element of skill to it. My teacher said to me, Robin, he said, with most of my students, he said, I have to put the aggression in. With you, I have to take it out. And I did martial arts. I did Shukakai karate for 35 years until I broke my neck training. And at that point, I had to stop and hand my karate business over to my oldest son, Alex, who's now a 6th Dan. And but that's how it started. It was just that there was no unarmed combat training in the regiment at that time, and I was looking for it. I found it elsewhere.
I can relate because I think I'm at 30 years myself now, but I started with judo, then ninjutsu, and actually like sword fighting, katori shinryu. So people always said my element was like fire, so to speak, and it took me a while actually to get all that out myself, because at least for me, I think like this background aggression never leaves. You can only get it under control with like training. At least that's my opinion.
When you've studied martial art for a long time, you realize that the great battle is with yourself, not with others. The purpose of becoming strong and capable as a fighter is so that you hopefully never have to fight, but if you have to, then you win, and you win very quickly.
But would you say this aggression is necessary to get into the SAS? I mean, otherwise, would you make the tests that are needed to get in if you don't have the aggression? Or would you say that's a wrong assumption?
It's absolutely necessary for soldiers, fighting soldiers, teeth-armed soldiers, especially paratroopers, to have aggression. But it has to be controlled aggression. So it has to be disciplined. It's everybody can be aggressive. Everybody's aggressive when they're frightened. So there's an element of controlling your fear to go with that, and that comes from selecting the right people, training them in the right way, and disciplining them in the right way, so that when you do come across situations that are dangerous, that are frightening, you're prepared for it, and you can think and you can function as an efficient soldier. Anybody can kill, soldiers in many cases trained to kill in the right times at the right places. So aggression's just one small part of the structure that builds a special forces soldier, or a very good soldier in many other contexts too.
And on a personal question, and then I hand over for the next question to Alex, how on earth did you ever manage to do that running test? Like, I literally only read about it and heard about it, but isn't that entry running test like pretty much the toughest thing you can do to get into any special forces? If you,
I'm not sure which running test you're referring to. The test week to get into the SAS is 5 days long, so it's called a week, but it's 5 days, and it's the equivalent of doing 5 marathons over 5 days with weight on your back alone over the mountains. And if you don't make the times adjust according to the weather. But if you don't make the times, you simply get returned to your unit. If you do make the times, then you go on to the next phase. The last day of the 5 days is 40 miles.
Still legitimately tough, I would say.
Yeah.
I can't do it, to be quite honest. Never could. So
some people were superbly supermen in fitness. I was, above average, but I wasn't up to them. But my map reading had to be absolutely perfect so that I didn't waste any time and energy. Some of these guys were so fit they could make a mistake and make it up, but I had to get it right first.
Yeah. As long as I know where I am, I can be where I want. So so it's true. You mentioned your military past. You went to Northern Ireland. You fought on the Falklands, and you were in many different places after this. How does the current situation feel to you personally? I think you grew up in a world where war was constantly present and was a part of your life, and for me this is totally different because I grew up in the 90s. The Soviet Union collapsed, and we all grew up with the idea that there would be peace from now on, the end of history. Some people called this, but you come from a different time. It is. Does this feel strange, or did you see this coming, or what is your feeling about all this? This would be very interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of questions there, but it makes me feel sad that we've had to go back to the beginning again, where the Romans used to say, if you want to avoid a war, prepare for one. And those lessons get forgotten in peacetime. And when everybody gets relaxed and becomes complacent because there's nothing happening, then the money stops getting spent on defense. It starts to get spent on other important things like roads and social security and improving people's lives. But what's the point of improving people's lives if somebody can come and take it away from them? And what's happened over the last 30 to 40 years, very much following on from the collapse of the Soviet Union, is everybody felt that the USA would be their great protector, that NATO was the great alliance, that we were stronger than Russia if we built our business relationships with Russia and traded our gas and so on, that nobody would have a good reason to start a conflict. And under circumstances like that, people forget what evil really is. And there are evil, malignant narcissists always in society. And there's a tendency for people to follow the dog that barks loudest. So you get into a situation where somebody gets a lot of money, somebody's cruel and mean, people feel that life isn't satisfactory for them, so they start to follow that very loud barking dog, and following the same patterns as Joseph Goebbels led with in the 1930s of having an inner enemy, an outer enemy, making the people hate a group of people that you could identify or demonize, and then gain power democratically through that system. And that's what's happened in the USA. So we don't just have the great threat of Russia invading Ukraine now. We have the great threat of a malignant narcissist, Donald Trump, operating very effectively as the dictator of the United States of America, our great protector, our great umbrella. And you know, we have allowed ourselves to become soft. I am so impressed by von der Leyen and your new chancellor and Macron and the other leaders in Europe, you know, especially the Scandinavians now, for being prepared to stand up and say, no, we're not going to have this. We will pay. We will do something. We will find a way. And the Canadians as well, because the only way to defeat tyranny and defeat bullies is to stand up and fight them. It's not good enough to go to court when somebody else won't follow the law. It's no good saying, the rules don't allow us to do this. It's just great until the other side say, well, I'm not going to follow the rules. So we have problems on both sides of the Atlantic now, and it's encouraging to see the strength of character that's coming out from the European leaders and the Canadian leaders as well. But it's sad that it's got to this. It's very, very sad that it's got to this, and it's got to this because we've allowed ourselves to become soft and flabby and weak and depend on American arms and Russian gas. We should never have done that. We've proven already that we can manage without Russian gas. Now we need to prove that we can manage without American arms as well.
I think that's a lesson actually, I would say Germany learned within the last 2-3 years, where it was actually necessary to become sort of independent. And then suddenly, like if people really wanted, it was very quickly done. Like, and now we're like, I don't know, 90% down on like energy dependency from Russia. So I think that shows like if people really want, anything is possible. Like I think it's all this lamenting around where people always say, oh, but what if? And I think you're totally correct. We don't have the luxury of speculation anymore. We are in the times of we have to do stuff now. Otherwise, it's too late.
If we balance the consequences of what happens if we do something compared to the consequences of doing nothing, then the imbalance is huge. Actually, if we don't do something, then it's inevitable that we're going to end up in slavery to autocrats or demagogues and dictators. It's inevitable because you've got to fight for freedom. People who are not prepared to fight for freedom are never going to be free.
Yeah. What is your favorite subject to write about? I would ask.
Oh, there's so many. I always have to have an emotional context to whatever it is that I can write well. I blog on Substack every single day because Substack isn't controlled by an algorithm that reduces my coverage, and then I share it out to the other social media outlets. That allows me to keep my viewing numbers up. But the things I write about, currently I'm writing a lot about what frightens me, and what frightens me is not so much the actions of Vladimir Putin, because I think he's being defeated in Ukraine. It's the actions of Donald Trump. So I write about that because I'm concerned and I'm scared, and I feel that I can see things and say things that other people are either can't see, won't see, or are too scared to speak about because they're scared of recriminations. They're being scared of being cancelled or closed down or even threatened. I've had my web pages attacked time and time again by cyber attacks from Moscow and from Tennessee, and that continues. I also write poetry. Some of it's political, some of it's satirical, some of it's funny. I write about bullying because I was the archetypal bullied, lonely, unpopular kid when I was small. Well, really very much up until I was about 18 or 19. So anything that gives me an emotional feeling. I write about love as well. I write about how much I love my wife. I've been with for 47 years. I've just had my 7th great grandchild, and I had him staying
Congratulations.
here.
Again, quite the
He's
achievement. Actually,
yeah.
that's...
He's 7 months old, and when he was 3 months old, I was babysitting him here in my lounge, and I was trying to work, and he was in his sort of chair down beside me, and he wasn't happy. So I put him on the table here beside me, and I started to write, and I wrote a fictitious conversation that I was having with him about what I was doing today, and it was as if he was answering me, and and so you can explore all sorts of things, but they have to be real for me. I've been trying to write a novel for a long time, but the thing about a novel is you have to invent the characters, and you have to feel the feelings for these artificial people, and that's really, really hard to do for me. So something I'm passionate about, something I have strong feelings about, then I can sit down and, with my studies and with the continuous writing that I do, I can produce things that people enjoy reading.
Mm. And I don't want to dampen the mood, but like from all this positive stuff, how are you still able to do that while commenting on the situation in Ukraine and all the other stuff on, like, obviously is that's not necessarily nice, and it takes a while mentally to recover, I imagine.
Well, pessimists achieve nothing. Optimists achieve everything. Nobody's ever going to do anything unless they believe that something can be changed, something can be done. So everybody sits around and going, "Oh, what's the point? Oh, we're doomed. It's never going to happen." So optimists change the world, and so we've got to be optimistic. We've got to have a voice, and we've got to use that voice. You're using your voice now, both of you, here on your podcast, and that's important. And it's important to encourage everybody that feels that they're too small to be important, to remind them that every drop is part of an ocean. And if we put our drop into the ocean, it finally grows and grows and grows, and we have power. But we have to speak up. We have to have the courage to speak up and do something and say something, and not get sucked into the malice and vindictive nastiness and cruelty and vulgarity that the other side use against us all the time, to try and keep focused on the truth more than anything else.
I would agree. Just as an example for me, we did a Ukraine podcast again, and the day it came out, I got 2 messages actually of people who wanted to donate to Ukrainian charities as a result of listening to the podcast. And so I would add, like, just go out, post something, or do a podcast on your own, or talk to your aunt or whoever. You never know. Like, maybe you find 3 people who want, like, help you save the homeless in your neighborhood or donate to Ukraine. You never know, but it's always worth a shot, basically. Just saying something or writing something or posting something. And you never know who will read or listen. Like, it's always a positive outcome. Just go ahead and try, basically.
Yeah. And you can't hurt yourself by going out there and speaking and telling the truth. Telling the truth always. And if you just sit and hope that somebody else will do it for you, then find somebody who is saying the things you want them to, you believe. They're just better at putting it into words. A wise man just puts into words what other people know. He's not telling them things they don't know. He's just putting it into words for them so they understand it. And it's the same thing with good speakers. A good speaker gets up there and says what you want them to say. You talked about being optimistic. There was a moment in my life. Douglas Murray's favorite comment, the British campaigner, he says, compared to what? And compared to what? Well, I had a moment of compared to what when I was feeling very unhappy and miserable and sorry for myself. and I was living in Prague, and I had bladder cancer, and I was on chemotherapy. And I had to get up in the morning, get on the metro, go to the hospital, Motol, and wait, get my ticket, and wait in a queue to see the consultant. And I was sitting there complaining that I had to complaining in my head that I had to wait. You know, why have I got to wait? It said 11 o'clock. Now it's 11:20, and I'm really miserable. And don't they know how sick that I feel? And I'm so unhappy. And the door opened from the oncologist's office, and a 10-year-old child came out of the room with one leg. And I was like, "Shut up, Horsfall, you stupid boy. Compared to that, you're an old man. You've got nothing to worry about." You know, and there's great lessons in life there.
But I think it's a general society thing, especially in the Western world, that a lot of people don't realize how good we have it. Basically, especially Germans love to complain about everything. I guess it's in our DNA. It's just the case. We are all towels on swimming pools and complaining. But yeah, yes, that's how it is.
White socks.
And it's just like it's complaining on a very high level. Like if you, and I imagine obviously if you have been to other countries, if you see it so-called third world countries, or for example now to Ukraine, if I take a look at what's going on there, we're like, I can walk across the street and nobody tries to kill me most of the times. Except my wife occasionally, but other than that, not.
They're not complaining about what they had for dinner tonight. They're just very glad they've got something to eat. I was on the beach in Mozambique during the war there in 1992, and it was Christmas. And me and a colleague went to the beach to escape from the war, and we bought some food from the docks. And it was, you know, it was wine, it was meat. We got some fish. We had a barbecue, and we were going to go to this lonely place and just sit there and have a day which was just for us with good food, because, you know, we'd actually been suffering from malnutrition because we were lacking food for ourselves and our soldiers. So we spent our money and we traveled for Christmas Day, and we got on the beach, and I was on the beach. We'd got a barbecue, and all of a sudden people appeared from nowhere. And in Africa, it's normal, you know, whatever you have, you share. But I felt very resentful about this one day. Couldn't you just leave me alone and let me have? And a little boy, that was about 2.5, 3 maybe, came up to me, and his mother opened a piece of paper, and inside that piece of paper was a piece of bread. And she tore it in half and gave him half, and she had half herself. And there's me complaining about having to share my food, and this little boy came up with his piece of bread and offered me some of it. I was just so ashamed. I was so ashamed. You know, and we it's not just German people. Everybody in the world, when they have a comfortable life, complains about everything.
Probably. Just on a more serious note now, the whole Trump thing. Where we talked to several people, and they all said, well, we're pretty boned, and this is gonna be basically in best case scenario an oligarchy, and worst case scenario dictatorship in the States. Where do you think will this end?
It's there are many possibilities. It's not going to end in court, that's for sure. It's not going to end with some kind of decision, because the rule of law is broken down in the United States of America. Only poor people go to prison, rich people don't. Rich white politicians especially do not go to prison in the United States of America. And it doesn't matter what the court says now, because he has power. The only card that he's missing is the army. He hasn't got the army behind him. If he can get a percentage, or a large enough percentage of the army behind him, then he'll have total power and domination. And that's the big danger. He's already purging the army of its most senior and experienced officers, which is a first step. And people are doing nothing about it. The army are doing nothing about it. So, as you said earlier, I guess, you know, they may already be screwed. He's got the whole of Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. He's got the legislature. Because he controls the Supreme Court, who are corrupt. He's got the executive, which is his authority. If he gets the army, then he becomes a dictator. He's talking about dividing the army between white and non-white groups, units, which means he's hoping that he can get the white units to fight on his side. There's a possibility of a civil war breaking out. Let's put it this way: if there's any prediction that I would make, it means that there's going to be blood on the streets. There's going to be violence, and that violence is a result of the failure of the American legal system, the failure of Joe Biden to deal with him when he had the opportunity, the failure of America. It's become an oligarchy, and 2% of the population own 98% of the wealth. That's not how it should be.
And where does it leave Ukraine, in your opinion?
Well, that's Ukraine's the other story. Ukraine is going to have to rely on Europe, Canada, and other supporting countries like Japan, Australia, Brazil to survive, and we have to step up to that. And I'm so proud, as I said, of the European leaders, Canadian leaders, for taking the first steps to do that. Hopefully, Ukraine's going to be able to buy us enough time to get our manufacturing up to levels, to remove American technology from our high-tech aircraft and replace it with our own French technology, for example, and to do with our defense systems what we did with our hydrocarbon systems, manage on our own, become self-sufficient, and stop this business of globalization, because it's vulnerable. It's vulnerable to people like Putin. It's vulnerable to people like Trump. We have the population, we have the money, we have the innovators, we have the scientists, we have everything. We just have to accept the consequences of where we are now. Don't get bitter about the past. The past is done. It's what's going to happen next, and be positive about what we're going to do. We are going to defend Ukraine. We are going to do what's necessary, and let's see where that goes.
Okay, and if you could talk to the new chancellor, for example, in Germany, Merz, directly, what do you think he should do? Like, I mean, obviously they are gonna raise the defense budget significantly. Yeah. Talk is from 40 billion to 500 billion.
The discussion is
800 billion for Europe.
Yeah. So
I've listened to him. I mean, I know he's gone through the process of forming his government, but I like his attitude. I like his strength. I like his intelligence, his clarity. He's not screwing around. He's not trying to rub shoulders with people. He's not trying to make friends. He knows what he's up against, and he's prepared to stand up and be strong. And whether that frightens people or not, I believe that that's exactly what's necessary.
It's interesting how the views change regarding on the perspective how you see a person. Just a remark to your impression of Friedrich Merz.
It's interesting because some in Germany might have a different opinion.
Yes,
I would say, and I think it's always like the whole people from the outside view differently, but people here in Germany obviously see many different like internal politics points as well. But that does not necessarily reflect upon his views on this external politics. So it's very interesting.
I think that's normal. We all, in democracies, we all hate our leaders.
Yeah.
We do. We've got the same issues with Starmer in the United Kingdom. Yeah. He's constantly being attacked because he's got to run the economy. But if we just focus on foreign policy, Barack Obama was extraordinarily unpopular with about 50% of the population in USA, partly because he was black, but partly because the Republican Party was just not going to agree to anything he wanted to do. But on the international stage, he was regarded as one of the world's great statesmen. And he was, without any doubt at all. So the internal politics of a country and with their leadership is very different from the foreign policy and the external perceptions that people have.
And what do you think will be Putin's next step? Will it be along the line of like, I'll take Belarus and I'll try to attack, like invoke an Article 5 and attack, I don't know, NATO?
No, Putin hasn't been able to defeat little Ukraine. He also wasn't able to defeat Afghanistan, but a lot of countries have that
Who
problem.
was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's running out of money. The ruble's worth absolutely nothing. You can't trade it on the international markets anymore. He's mobilized his country, which means it's almost impossible for him to return to normal economic functions, because nobody outside of Russia will invest in Russia because he reneged and stole their investments. His army is getting slaughtered. Is losing between 1,000 and 1,500 casualties every single day to Ukrainian drones. They're running out of tanks. They're running out of materiel across the board. They do not have air superiority anymore. Yeah. They have air parity at the very least. And this is proven by the fact that long-range Ukrainian drones are getting 800 kilometers into Russia and destroying their oil refineries and their oil storage depots. So their logistical support is dying. They've got partisans in the country destroying railway lines, stopping troops being moved. They're relying on foreign mercenaries who believe that they're going there as support troops and just getting slaughtered every single day. David Petraeus or Ben Hodges said that you defeat mass with precision. And that's exactly what Ukraine has been doing and giving the rest of us time. They've died so that our children don't have to. And we're morally obliged now to support them and stay with them and do what we need to do. Because if we don't, it will be our children and our grandchildren that are next on the front line and the next to fight. We've got to deal with it quickly, effectively, and powerfully. And we've got to stand up to Putin's bully in Ukraine, and we've got to stand up to Trump's bully in the USA.
And what would you say the average German should do to support like Ukraine? Like, would you say he should like donate money to helping organizations, or talk to his like politicians from his constituents and say, listen, we have to pressure the chancellor to do more? Or what would you say is a good approach for the average person?
Yeah, I think the average person has to be encouraged to understand the moral aspects of this, to understand the dangers to Germany, and to support their government to be strong. I think that's more important than donating money. Governments will donate billions if they need to. And sometimes you have to be careful because you're donating and you're not quite sure where your money is going to. And the world's full of scammers and criminals. So unless there are no links between you and the final end place that the money's going to, be very careful with your money. It might not be getting where you want it to get to, but support your government and support your government's support for Ukraine. That's the important thing. That's the most important thing. And raise up your voices and speak out. Be brave.
I think that was a great closing argument. And this podcast now, unfortunately, comes to a halt. And before we end it up, again, thank you so much for being here, Robin, for taking your precious time to talk to us weird Germans. And before it ends, I want to give you the opportunity. Do you want to add anything, or do you want to plug your new book or have a general message? Stage is yours.
Yeah, if you want to know more about me, find me on robinhorsfall.com. If you want to read everything that I've been writing in the last year, it's available free on Substack, Robin Horsfall at Substack. And you can, if you can't remember that, just put my name in Google. You'll find me.
And of course, we'll put every relevant link in the description. So just click in the description, you'll find anything relevant, and take a look at Robin's great book, his autobiography, which I can recommend, basically. And thank you again.
Fighting scared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you for being here, Alex. And
With a
I'll
pleasure.
see you all next cast.